What's going on, everyone? I'm your host, Riker, and you're listening to the House of Horizons, where we elevate our everyday lives. Right next to me is someone you probably recognize, but if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Of course. My name is Luke Skippy Harbur, in case you haven't seen me before. I am a full-time performer, producer, and educator based out of Kansas City, Missouri. I have actually come to Smithville High School to talk a few times, much thanks to Dr. Simon. And ultimately, I'm a big fan of Smithville High School. There's something about you wonderful students, and you're so inquisitive and engaging. And I don't know, it feels good to be on this podcast and be part of the wonderful culture that is your school and what you do.
Yeah, I appreciate it, and I'm sure plenty of our students at Smithville appreciate you as well.
Of course.
Getting into like how we met each other, as we've kind of already teased a little bit, you've talked in Dr. Simon's classes as a lecturer, you've been at Career Day, and so I guess my story of how we met was a Marketing 1 class. You came and did a lecture, and Dr. Simon and I are really close, and he was telling me, yeah, we got this beatboxer I know that's going to come speak to you guys. I was like, a beatboxer? Interesting. I didn't really think much of it.
For the record, I wouldn't know how to react either.
Yeah, I was like, okay, I don't know how this is going to talk about marketing, but sure, he's a performer. And then we had Career Day and all that stuff, but after that first time meeting you, I was like, this guy is awesome. I need to connect with him, do something with him, collaborate on something with him, because he's just, one, a good person, and two, I absolutely loved everything that you said in all those presentations.
Thank you so much, man. And I mean, the only thing I have to add to how we've met is, yep, we met in the Marketing 1 class. We met again on Career Day. But I want to give you kudos because as a guest lecturer, you can kind of have hesitancy from students to like ask you questions, which, by the way, I'm looking right at the lens because I totally understand it. I was the same exact way at your age. And at the end of the day, you had some wonderful follow-up questions for me. You're really curious about what I do, so of course I had to say yes to this. It makes me really happy and really excited.
Yeah, so I guess jumping into segment 1 of this episode, guys, is how you became this image and this brand that you've made of going from Luke to being a performer and the branding of Skippy, and how that all happened.
That is a wonderful freaking question. So I'm going to give you the short answer because I don't want to go on my life tangent story. But as a kid, I was always really attracted to the arts. I was literally a ladybug when I was 3 in my first ever play as a kid. I noticed that creativity really made me feel alive, excited. So I was always Luke Harbur during my adolescence. Now, where all that changed, though, is at age 5, I was in New York with my wonderful mom and her best friend, Gina. That best friend looked at me as I was skipping and said, man, he's like a little Skippy TL. And my mom was like, what does that even mean? He's like, well, that stands through skipping through life because he skips everywhere. He doesn't walk. Kind of put that in the back of my mind as I got older. I learned how to beatbox at age 10. That became a big part of my brand and my personality. And then I realized Skippy is an amazing nickname to kind of throw out there and remember. Now, there's a lot of Skippies in the music industry, but my project, Music by Skippy, is a really easy thing to type out, all as one word, and that is how I was able to create a brand that's easy to search and has honestly become fairly marketable. A lot of people are now able to find me because my name is caught up in the algorithm, per se.
Yeah, 100%. And I remember going through all these lectures and everything, and everyone was looking up your name, your Instagram, all this stuff. Follow, and everyone's talking about you.
I got so many notifications on Career Day. I love it.
And throughout the rest of Career Day, everyone's like, oh yeah, I followed Skippy. Did you see this post? All this stuff. I'm like, this is crazy.
That's
like,
wild.
From the student perspective, everyone loved it. Everyone was. I have not sat through a lecture where someone was that engaged about a guest speaker.
I feel very honored because, especially as a performer, you try to find this balance of like, how much am I doing this in order to be an educator and make sure you're really feeding a room, making them feel good. And then you kind of have to balance it out because you're like, I don't know, what am I doing this for in my own way, right? But I've always been so passionate about education and students. So I'm like, I want to meet you guys with where you're at. You're going to be adults. I'm going to talk to you like adults.
Yeah.
And I like being open and honest about my career. And I think you all responding to that in a wholesome way made me feel very safe and excited as an educator. And I don't know, there's merit to you guys too. It's very symbiotic as a relationship.
Yes. And I know for me personally, I already know the gist of this next question I'm going to ask you, but for the people out there, what was the hardest thing of making this brand?
Wow. God, that's such a good question. I think the hardest thing about making this brand is I knew I had to be in this for not just a year, not just 2 years, but I had to think about my goals from a 5 to 10 year perspective. And so when you're in that first year and you're making a brand that no one really knows, dude, it's intimidating. People don't necessarily respond to what you're doing as well as you want, maybe. Or even in year 2, the really funny thing about building a business and a brand in year 2 is people are like, oh yeah, you figured it out. You have a great following now. You're like, it's only my second year of putting this together. I don't know what you're talking about. The beauty, though, is what's gotten easier and easier is I've now hit this year 3 mark. I get emails that come to me now. I get people bringing budgets to me now, and it's not me just pushing out what I do over and over. I've become a name that's talked about in rooms, but as you heard from what I said, building a brand takes a lot of time because you're trying to put a stamp into someone's head about who you are and what you do. And you want to do it in a very non-annoying way.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's hard, but I've learned the long game is what's worth it. Even if you do or don't see the success on screen, that happens to you.
100%. And I totally agree with that, with everything that I've done from starting my own cheesecake business and trying to get my name out there, this, that, and the other. Like, there's people that don't know me around the other parts of around Smithville, but plenty of people know me inside Smithville, and even some people in Smithville don't really know about it. So it's just like, what do I do to like get out there but not annoy people?
And you will find the people that draw to you. That takes a ton of time too. I won't give the case study in full of what I gave in that Marketing 101 and Career Day portion, but like I made a list of 500 people I just knew in Kansas City, and my hope was 50 to 100 of them would buy a ticket to my first show. I probably annoyed about 350 people, and then I had about 50 people that were like, maybe, I don't know. But eventually, because I really was trying to be genuine, there were 120 people on that list that bought tickets to my first show. I totally obliterated my goal, right? But it took a lot of rejection to get to that success.
Yeah, so mentioning goals, because this whole show is about like goals and not believing in New Year's resolutions and setting goals, accomplishing goals. What do you do to like remind you daily of your goals and what you're going to do to accomplish those goals?
Beautifully. I mean, that's a beautiful question. As you can tell by my personality, I kind of feel like I'm sort of a lightning bolt that's striking all the time. So I've had to work very hard to build a system that focuses that energy. So every year, at the beginning of the year, I do 3 tiny goals that I want to complete every season. And I don't try to make them crazy. Like, I have a personal goal list and a professional goal list. So one of my personal goals is to go on a trip somewhere for like 3 days by myself. Doesn't have to be crazy, but I know I have to save a little money in order to do that, and that affects how I do my accounting now, week to week. Professionally, honestly, man, I really, really want to launch the workshop of this children's book and musical that I'm writing. What does that take? Well, I had to apply to a bunch of grants in order to even get funding for that, because I've got about 4 or 5 other people I have to pay in order to launch that. I've got to figure out a marketing list so people actually show up to this thing, right? Know that big goals are intimidating, But honestly, they stop being so if you just break them down to the smallest things. And that's how I get my daily tasks done. I have this to-do list application on my laptop that I list out every tiny thing I need to do in order to get to the big thing. And that's kind of the secret, is to be disciplined in doing the tiny things to make the big thing happen.
Yeah. So I know for me, I don't particularly do like goals throughout the seasons throughout the year. I do a monthly goal of like, hey, this is what I want to do in XYZ this month. If I accomplish that goal before the end of the month, then I'll up it a little bit and see if I can reach that new goal. And if I don't reach the goal by the end of the month, I sit down, evaluate, and be like, okay, why didn't I accomplish this goal? What do I need to do better to accomplish the goal?
That's great. And that's a very healthy perspective on goal setting. Some people can get so hard on themselves if they don't do a goal. I was so hard on myself in high school when it came to goal setting. I feel like I had to do everything all at once. And I was like, why? Like, now as an adult, I'm like, why, dude? Like, you have time. Just like play the slow game of doing what you want to do, because ultimately that will result in doing what you're doing. You get something done in a month, you're like, wow, nice. I was really efficient in doing that thing.
Yeah.
What else can I do that would ultimately get me towards my dreams or aspirations, or honestly, just my day-to-day joy, you know?
Yeah, and talking about positivity and that as well. I'm being a baseball player and also the person who has the entrepreneurial mindset that I have. Playing sports pisses me off when I don't play as good as I know I could play.
Totally, man.
But then when I'm just talking to people and they're just telling me about their day and like always talking about the negative part, I'm like, why do you dwell on the negative part? Like, sit there, understand the negatives, but then what are the positives? What are, like, just look at the positive sides and see how you can enhance the positives.
Sure.
And like not dwindle on the negatives. And it's just, negative mindset people, like, not to call anybody out, I don't know how you guys do that, because I just try to sit there and understand the positives as much as I possibly can and just be better in that perspective.
Sure.
But
sure.
I guess I've never been the negative mindset person.
Sure.
Outside of baseball.
And that's understandable, because you're in heavy competition. There's a lot of teammates. There's maybe the pressure of friends, family, or loved ones watching you. Maybe a coach has like set milestones for you, and maybe you didn't quite hit those in the game when it was like the one moment you could. I'm a firm believer in realistic optimism. So when I was young in high school, I had something called toxic optimism, where I saw everything was good all the time. I never had a problem. Now, as an adult, I've realized the beauty of going, man, if something really sucks, it's okay that it sucks. I want to acknowledge that. But like, I kind of have a lot to look forward to today. You know?
Yeah.
It's good to slow it down, kind of sit in the negative for just a little bit. And I'm certainly not dissing your own process of life and your emotions. But I've noticed there's a ton of merit to being like, when you sit in negative for a bit, it kind of helps you like ground your realistic self and your mindsets, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Leading into the next question, I guess, what is one thing that you would change about the world?
That is an amazing question. Let me think. One thing I would change about the world that we're living in is the power of being kind to people similar and different than you. So no matter your politics in our day and age, no matter your race, religion, I genuinely wish the most powerful people in the world could enlighten themselves about what diversity in culture, in education, in perspective does for your life. Like, I think two of the best people that have influenced me are this. my really good friend from college, he's an Indian man named Veer Badani, that man has enriched my life in more ways than I will ever tell you because of our cultural differences. But the way we just laugh and have fun just brings us together. And I'm with someone who also did that for me is this amazing human named Carolina Gaudenzi. She lives in one of the smallest countries in the world called San Marino, which is inside of Italy. All of that culture, all of those perspectives have made me a better person. So if only I could change that in the world where everyone has a different friend that thinks differently than them, acts differently, might even treat money differently, there's really a lot that I think the world would benefit from if we had a friend like that.
Yeah, that's great because I know with me, and you probably already know this, but I have one friend probably, and we started the podcast, we hang out all the time, we do X, Y, and Z together, and people, like, sometimes people just be like, why do you guys do the things that you do, and why do you guys hang out so much? And I'm just like, he and I, like, think the same.
Yes.
We got the same goals.
Yes.
It's just like, this is where we want to be in life, and
that's so great.
And it's always
though.
it's always just people that don't understand why you make your own decisions, and they're like, why do you do that? It's just like,
I'm learning it's because some people get really jealous that they don't have a good friend like that. I have a friend here based in Kansas City. We have been best friends for 20 years. We call each other every single day and talk between 10 to 20 minutes a day. His name's Arthur Clifford. He's a professional performer to a T. I mean, he's been on national tours and he's amazing. But trust me, if anyone ever asks you that question, I'm telling you, man, it's because they're jealous they don't have a good friend like that. I'm getting giddy and excited because there's nothing like a really good friend like that. Nothing like it.
Yeah. Next question, I guess.
Yeah.
We talked about a big change you'd make in the world. What's a big change that you want to make in the near future, whether it's a personal thing or a branding thing or just anything?
That's a great question. You know, I'll share both sides of the coin. So I think a personal thing that I want to change is continuing to make my life a little more slower paced than I've been living it. I mean, being a full-time freelancer is very hard. I mean, my days can be very long. They can be very gruesome. And honestly, there's a lot of rejection that comes to writing like a really big grant, which is a request for money, and you get a lot of rejections for that. Trying to write a song, and sometimes the song is just bad, and you put all this time into it. But being patient with that, I think, is kind of a secret ingredient to really staying in this industry. Just lean into being a little more slower paced. Personally. And professionally, it's very funny you say brand, because I'm sure we'll get into kind of what's been going on with me recently, but I'm thinking about changing my logo due to what's happened to me recently. The logo is very representative of where I was at before, but when you go through what I've now been through, there's a lot that changes internally. And I think maybe a different symbol will represent what that change looks like.
Interesting. That is very interesting. I remember you breaking down your whole logo, the 3 colors.
I know.
I was just like, this is crazy, and the whole thing, your performance mask. I was like, this is awesome. But hearing that, I mean.
And now that's a maybe. It might be a thing where because I have another project I'm developing where maybe that logo, the new one I want to make, might be that logo for that thing. Because I know the Skippy logo is so fun. I mean, it looks like me. I'm waving at you. It is too fun.
Yeah, that's 100% accurate right there. I mean, when I saw the logo, I was like, what is this? And then you explained it, and I was like,
how?
This makes sense, but I don't know how you came up with it.
Yeah, the sweet little brain never stops, my friend.
Yeah, so I guess jumping right into that part is, I've been following along with your journey and what you've been talking about, and I'm sure some of you may know everything that's been going on if you follow him on Instagram and all the social medias of what's been going on over the past 3 months.
Yeah.
I guess, so you did go through surgery.
Yep.
We can talk a little bit about that.
Sure.
And then after that, I mean, can you just like explain how that's kind of just changed your life and how it's changed your brand?
Absolutely. So to give you all context, to give you full context, I had open heart surgery on Tuesday, February 4th, 2025. And I learned from my wonderful family and loved ones, I had about 5 days to live when that happened. Now that said, let's reverse a little bit. I was diagnosed with something called a bicuspid aortic heart valve. So when you think about your heart valve shape, go ahead and look this up in your science class. But all of you probably have, or most of you have, 3 little leaflets that are pumping your blood. I was born with something called an aortic heart valve that only had 2 leaflets. So honestly, I could never do sports growing up because that kind of limited me from exercise. Okay? Fast forward a tiny bit. I was always told as a kid that I would have to have a heart valve around age 30. So I kind of knew this time was coming. I'm 29 years old. I knew this time was coming. But it was not at the severity that I thought it was going to be. I walked in the doctor's office thinking, I'm going to have minimally invasive surgery, be in and out of the hospital in 2 to 3 days. Oh, my dude, this doctor was like, no, you need to do a 7-hour open heart surgery, and you're going to probably be here for a couple weeks. So from Tuesday, February 4th to February the 13th, which I believe is a Thursday, I recovered in the hospital at the University of Kansas Health System. It's kind of a miracle that I'm alive, frankly. And I also have something called a mechanical valve now. So if anyone wants to look it up, people with a mechanical valve, there's always a click in my chest now. I'm kind of like Iron Man in that way, you know? It's pretty cool. So I lean into, yes, I've been through something very intense, but I didn't really have a choice, and it's literally saved my life. So there's a lot of merit to that, and that's what I try to focus on now. With my brand and what I'm doing with my life, I have to step away from performance just to recover for a month or 2. I'll get back on stage very soon, I already know that. But during this time, I'm actually writing a book, and it's called 4 Deaths by 30. And it talks about my health journey and what it's been like to have a liver transplant as a baby, all the way to having something like open heart surgery when you're 29. Lots of people might be getting that in the United States by the time they're 50 or older. But 29 years old is young, man. But I'm here, I survived, and I am truly getting better every day. According to the doctors and surgeons, not just my own optimism.
Yeah.
Medically, I'm getting better every day, which is great.
Yeah, we're glad you're here, and I didn't even know you were given 5 days. I
didn't know that either until my parents and my loved ones told me. I was like, oh, okay, this is not what I thought it was.
Yeah, I'm sure they told you, and it just kind of just sunk in. You're like,
oh, big time.
Whoa.
Big time.
I don't know how I would react if someone told me I had 5 days to live.
You say, my experience was, awesome, let's get this done, and I will be a really compliant patient so that this all works out. And that's where I always think the modern medicine system we have. It has a lot of flaws, but it really did save my life.
Yeah. And I know as well, I saw this on your Instagram story, you did a little performance.
I did.
At the Ship KC.
Yes.
Of, I believe it was just an improv of something you just made up.
Yeah, I did. I did 3 beatboxing routines, including a segment I do in every show now where I take an audience suggestion of a couple words and then I make a whole made-up routine of beatboxing, and then I read a couple excerpts from my book that I'm writing, and that got a lot of laughs and tears and yada, yada, yada. It was a beautiful thing. But if I'm not mistaken, would you like me to perform a little bit of that piece that I did for you?
I would love that. Absolutely.
Perfect.
Take it away.
Sounds good. Wonderful listeners and watchers, this is a little excerpt from a beatboxing routine called Machine Heart. Yow, skippity skip. Not bad.
Wonderful. That is wonderful.
It's always so wild
Yeah.
doing it like that, you know? It just kind of comes out of nowhere now.
Yeah, where did this come from? Like the title Machine Heart and coming up with it. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sure, I don't know, I probably would have thought of it in the hospital of like
Yes.
something, I don't know.
That is what I thought. So I was trying to just do one word at this performance at the ship, and I heard heart, and I was like, okay, you got to, man. Like, heart is great. And someone said machine, and I thought about the clicking in my chest that never stops now. And I'm like, you know, I remember when I had that first doctors and surgeons visit, and they said, if we cannot spare your original heart valve, you're going to get a mechanical one, and you'll hear it clicking in your chest for the rest of your life. And so when I was awake before this surgery, it was the last time I got to hear and feel my original heart, and I had to contextualize that. And then when I woke up in the intensive care unit the next day, I remember sitting there, and all of a sudden I hear, and I was like, oh my God, I don't have my own heart anymore. There's a part of it that is permanently gone. And I kind of have to embrace that. Is it difficult to? Honestly, it kind of is. One of many reasons why I'm going to therapy, which I promote to anyone. But at the same time, that click is a reminder that I am alive, man. So that song and that routine now to me is so personal, because it's like I have a rhythm in my chest that will always remind me that I'm going to keep going, but that rhythm isn't quite human anymore. And that just has to be okay.
Yeah, 100%. I love the whole concept idea, like where it came from, the fact that you just kind of just came up with it that one night, and I was like, interesting. I remember watching it, and I was like, this is definitely, I was just like, wow.
It's crazy.
I was like,
you know, right?
I didn't know it was an improv originally.
Yeah.
I had just was scrolling on my phone, and then it starts playing, and I had put my phone down, and then I look at my phone, and it said it was just like an improv thing. It's not something you actually wrote. It was just 100% off the dome, and I was like, oh.
That is the beauty of performing a lot and having experience in performing beatboxing and even like writing lyrics. I think some of my strongest performances nowadays are just made up. They're based on listening to the audience that just gives me a word and I make a song. And I think it's fun. So many people hate it and find it very intimidating to do that. But I'm like, no, man, like this is a party. Let's like see what we can make each time, you know?
100%.
Keeps the show interesting.
I feel like I'm the same way, because a lot of the music I listen to is just rappers freestyling, and it just becomes their song. I mean, the person that I listened to the most and was my number one each month last year was Juice World, and
he's unbelievable.
He just
Such
freestyles everything.
There's such a good documentary about him. It's crazy. I'm like, I thought it was all written. And then the producer's like, no. This guy just came into the booth, started doing things. In one of his shortest sessions, I don't know if you knew this or not, he was in the booth for 10 minutes, one take. And he was like, yeah, I'm done. Do you need anything else? They're like, no, but somehow you wrote this entire song without any notes or anything.
So I guess jumping into segment 2 now, where we are now. I like the idea of being grounded and knowing where we are now. So can you just take us back from when you were in high school, when you graduated, to now being an educator, speaking in classrooms and plenty of schools? I'm sure you've been to several schools. You've been to Smithville like 3 times. We definitely would like to have you a 4th time, but we're coming up on the end of the year. But what would you say is the biggest difference from when you were in high school to being an educator now and being a guest speaker?
I think one of the biggest changes I saw from the high school you maybe experience now to when I was experiencing high school is I was part of one of the last generations that didn't really have screens so integral to our learning. And you know what I think another one is? I understand comparison culture is very common. It was in high school way before you and me. It was even in junior high school before we went to high school, right? But I think the pressure of the algorithm to be perfect and just look really good all the time, there's way more pressure on what you all have experienced than me. So honestly, I've noticed that how people value self-esteem and just being a truth teller is maybe different. Like as a kid, I kind of found all my odds and ends buddies, and we got to be really silly in ourselves, and I noticed we would never really record any of that. And I've noticed some students, not all, of course, in your generation, that'd be a horrible assumption, but it is more easy to lean into record everything all the time and look joyful all the time. And then if you're watching that as someone on a phone in high school, you're like, well, why am I not like that? Why am I not part of that joy all the time? And I mean, I don't mean to say this, man, but that joy is kind of like augmented. You've got to find joy in your own way, especially off a screen. And I'm just noticing that culture was way more common in my time as a high schooler versus when I've been talking in high schools, and I see a lot of students on their phones, and I hear a lot about like why scrolling may or may not be affecting someone's self-esteem. I didn't really have scrolling. I might have been like comparing myself in person to people, but that's just way slower of a mental game. So I could process it easier. And I don't want to diss any of you wonderful high school students either. Please know, I'm not your age. I don't really know the culture that you live in day to day. It's an observation much more than anything else.
Yes, of course. And from my point of view of this is kind of just if I get a piece of paper and I'm told to do it by the end of class, I'll do it within 20 minutes. I'll turn it in because we have like hour and a half classes. But when I'm told it's online and it's not due till Friday, it's just like, I'm good.
Yeah, think about how the digital realm, it's not just full of distractions, but if we were to use a metaphor of like a pail, and everything you're doing just keeps dripping as rain into this pail, there's a lot of freaking water in that pail online. But if you're forced to kind of do something where it's handwritten or there are certain constraints that have to force you to stay offline, I think it's like really good for your focus. That might be me talking as someone who had to write all my papers when I was still in high school. But it just helped. I feel like you could just process your writing better. Math made more sense. But this is my brain, not all brains.
I would have to agree because whenever I'm given a paper and I'm just like, no computer, no phone, no nothing, and I just have to do this paper, I feel like I'm more focused and I can get things done a lot quicker because if it's on a computer, I'll scroll through tabs. Someone's talking about something. I'll look it up. Or
course.
I'm on my phone. Someone texted me. Oh, I got to text them back right now.
I am guilty of that as a full-time freelancer, my good sir. We have to figure out through our own systems and strategies, how do we try to keep focused? I think it's very intense to say we have to keep focused all the time. That's not human. We're not robots. We need to allow ourselves to be distracted and a little silly. But there's a way to structure that, you know?
Yeah.
And that's been a big thing I've seen in the change of high school structure. It's very hard to keep up with the technology that's trying to grab your attention because it's gotten a lot smarter since I was in high school.
Yeah, and I feel like whether it's paper or online, I'm always listening to music because music just like calms me, it keeps me focused, and then I get distracted because someone's talking to me, and the moment I pause my music, I'm lost.
Sure.
And then I just have to like, okay, I turn the music back on, I'm right back at my work, I gotta get this done. And I feel like music has always been my way of focusing.
Great.
I feel like that's the same with a lot of people my age as well. I definitely listen to more music than I should.
It's okay.
My Apple recap was 156,000 minutes.
That's fine. But is it helping you focus? Is it enriching your life?
Helping me focus. I don't know if it's very much enriching my life.
That's fair. My opinion is, if it's keeping you focused, it is enriching your life. And if music becomes a little bit of an escape and not an addictive escape, that's also good too. But don't get me wrong, man. I am also guilty of listening to so much music. It really, oh man. If only I could describe to some of you how I have to write an SAT writing test frequently for some of these applications that I have. Some of them are very tedious and long, and music really keeps me locked in for those.
Yeah, and sometimes I'll be thinking, I'm like, I wonder if I can change the lyrics of this song that I've listened to way too many times.
Sure.
And I don't know if this was a thing when you were in high school or if you've seen my Instagram post about it, but it was Mr. SHS contest.
I did see this.
Yep. And I was nominated as Mr. Deca.
Nice.
And I was like, okay, I'm going to do a Deca rap.
Okay.
Well, Deca rap didn't really turn into much of anything. It sucked. I was like, this is terrible.
That's
what am I going to do?
That's okay.
They were like, you need to have a talent that's 2 to 3 minutes long. I was like, I got to rap for 2 to 3 minutes long and make it up.
It's hard, man.
And I was like, okay, beat, free beat online, got it, okay. Lyrics, don't know. ChatGPT, write me a thing that has to do with this, that, and the other. This sucks. 3 days before performance, I was in the shower at like 9 o'clock at night. I had a long day. I was listening to music, and the song Love Somebody by Morgan Wallen came on, and I was like, this is it. I can totally do this.
Yeah.
I was like, blah, 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 blah. I was like, I can do something with this and just like make it like really long. And I ended up texting Dr. Simon. I was like, hey, can you take the words off of this or something and just have the beat?
Great.
And we figured it out, and I wrote the lyrics that night. I was up till like 11:30 writing the lyrics for it. I was like, this is it. This is perfect. And then I just had to, I recorded it on here. I downloaded it on my phone.
Good.
Listen. And I was just reading the lyrics as I was listening. And I was like, okay, I think I got the lyrics. And then I memorized it within like a day.
Isn't that amazing?
I was like, wow.
When our brains
awesome.
are determined, humans become amazing in general. But good for you, man. You found a solution to your problem in a different way than you thought. And the whole point is, you arrived to a solution whether you liked it or not, you know?
Yeah, and we had a sound check the night before, and I couldn't really hear, like, they couldn't figure out the speakers in our theater. Oh, no. And I was like, I can't hear it. I don't know where my parts are. I was also kind of still learning the lyrics, and I didn't like, I seriously couldn't hear the music, so I was like, I don't know where I'm at in this. And then I was like, and I had other people in my performance as well, as you saw, and I was just trying to figure it out. And then I was like, okay, I just got to lock in tonight, memorize it all, and then performance tomorrow. Unfortunately, didn't do another like quick performance sound check the night of, so I was like, okay, I hope I don't mess up.
Yeah, man.
Well, I was probably third or fourth
Okay.
to do the talent. And 30 seconds before I go out, my legs went numb. I was like, oh my gosh.
No.
I was like, I don't know how you guys do this. I don't know how you get out on a stage. I mean, there was probably like 150, 200 people there or something.
That's a
I was like,
lot
I
in high
don't
school.
know how you guys do this.
Yeah.
But I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
And although I can't sing, I had the time of my life. It was super fun.
Good.
But that's my experience with writing a song.
Writing and perform. Yeah, and we all have our gifts, man. Can I make a cheesecake? The answer is no. I can't make any food barely. But that said, we all have our gifts. Do I write songs in an hour and they're done? Yes, but that's the way my brain has worked, you know? But I can understand why it'd be really scary to do what you did in front of your peers, but the whole point is you lived to tell the tale. You did a good job, and for better or worse, it's a great story that you'll never forget and you'll probably share for a long time.
100%. And the thing with me is doing all the stuff that I do, I'm a very talkative person. I can talk in front of big groups of people. Everyone's like, you don't get nervous talking in front of your class? And I'm like, no, that's
No.
like 30 people.
Right.
It's so easy to talk in front of 30 people for me. But I've talked in front of several people before. I've talked in front of the whole school before. But improvising a song, coming up with lyrics, sucking at singing, I'm like, yeah, I don't know.
It's all right, man. We all have our gifts. We all have our gifts.
Yeah, that was definitely one of my top high school moments right there. I'd have to say that was super fun and I really enjoyed it. Jumping into the final segment, what this whole podcast is about, being 1% better each day for yourself, the people around you, your coworkers, your peers. What would you say you do every single day to be 1% better?
After this open heart surgery, the two things I do every day now that does help me get 1% better is, and this is no joke, every single day I have probably the biggest breakfast that I've ever eaten in my life now. I usually have 2 meals a day, but after this surgery, due to needing a lot more nutrition, I have 3 meals a day. That helps me show up in business meetings and rooms in ways that I cannot even describe to you. And I make sure that I have my coffee every single day. That sounds so stereotypical, but I have done full-length shows where I ate 2 meals and it was lunchtime when I had my last meal and I almost fainted on stage. I have had 2 meals a day and I needed to make $4,000 to $5,000 business deals close. And I literally cannot remember what those conversations looked like with those people because I was hungry the whole time. If you eat well, I'm talking good food that has really good nutrition, if you can get your hands on it, that will make you 1% better every day. I know that sounds so cheesy, but it's honestly true. It's very true.
Yeah. I'm a big food guy. There's some places around here that just driving around to get here, I left super early because I was like, I don't know where to park. I probably drove around for 15 minutes trying to find a parking spot, but you know, it's okay. But there's a couple of places I was like, that sounds good.
Oh, the food here is amazing, man. In
Yeah.
Kansas City in general, KCK and KCMO. Very good.
So 1% better, eat your food, guys.
Eat your food. Please make time for your food.
Well, next question. What is the hardest thing about being 1% better?
Well, to give you a little insight, I actually have a lot of childhood trauma related to food. So I used to not cook because I just didn't ever have a good feeling inside of a kitchen based on trauma. Now, we don't have enough time to get into that, and frankly, you probably don't even want to know. But that said, it's hard for me to consistently show up in a kitchen space, but I am showing up. And I now know, because of my mechanical heart valve in this surgery, I don't have a choice. Could I not do it? Yeah, but I probably wouldn't heal that well from this heart surgery more and more, frankly. But because I show up, that is why I keep doing better. And it's hard. It is hard, man. It's really hard to show up sometimes in a kitchen. But gosh, it is so worth it. Again, that sounds so simple, but it's hard because it makes you better. Most likely, really hard things are the things that are going to make you better every day. Just true.
100%. Going back a little bit into segment 1 of being a positive mindset, negative mindsets, and all that, how do you see the good within the bad?
Ooh. You want to know the best example I have of that?
Yeah.
So with this open heart surgery, I went through something called complete heart block, meaning I went in cardiac arrest, meaning I actually died for 20 seconds. So that said, I was resuscitated. Obviously, I'm talking to you now, which is just a miracle. But here's what I did. After I woke up from that, I had two choices. Either I could be in complete shock, anger, struggling on a hospital bed while 10 to 15 people were doing an emergency procedure on me to keep me alive, or I could be so calm and so chill because these people are saving my life. So I woke up, and I kid you not, you can ask the doctor. The first thing I said when I woke up was, "Whoa, I'm back! Are you kidding me?" I didn't say, or like struggle on a bed. I said, "Whoa, I'm back," after dying for 20 seconds. So by having that perspective too, I couldn't move my head. My body was in shock. I couldn't move anything. But I saw my surgeon who did this surgery on me, and he just shook his head because he's had patients that literally would want to get up and strangle him after something like that. And I'm like, you told me this would be possible. So I remember telling him, I'm like, "Dr. Crawford, I'm right here, man. You saved my life. I love you. We're going to get through this together." And I swear he almost started crying because it was like, these people literally have given me a renewed lease on life, man. How can I forget that? You know?
Yeah.
You have to see the good through the bad by processing the bad. Please process. But know you can always choose the pathway of, okay, it's going to get a little easier. And Lord knows, I remember when I didn't have enough lung capacity to speak one word after my surgery. But I was like, tomorrow I'm going to speak 2 words. Tomorrow I'm going to speak a sentence. And it became a domino effect of my current recovery process.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, just talking about like hospital experiences, I've had a couple, but my mom just tells me over and over and over again, the moment I came out the womb, I was crying. I would not shut up. And the one thing she says every single time is, that doctor was so mad at you because you wouldn't shut up. You were the healthiest baby in that entire hospital. And he straight up said, "Shut up. You're fine. There's nothing wrong with you."
I love that so much.
It is just one of my favorite, like, hospital memories, even though I can't remember it.
Sure.
I was a baby. I was just born. But
Another story for your back pocket, man. You'll want to keep that one. It's
100%. And then you kind of answered this question already, so I'm going to change it.
Sure.
I like changing questions. Mm-hmm. You have inspired multiple people at Smithville High School. You've inspired me. You've inspired plenty of other people, I'm sure of it.
No, thank you.
So how, knowing that you inspire people, how does that make you feel, and how do Like, do you like always think, oh, I got to do this and that to like keep inspiring these people?
It's a good question. First off, for anyone who's been inspired, thanks. I appreciate you liking me exactly as I am. Two, what I think about is the importance of my authenticity in order to show everyone else it's okay to be authentic. So people who've seen my shows, people that have met me, I remember when I was younger, I was bullied for being this way because people thought it was an act. And I'm like, nah, man, I've always kind of been this like quirky, silly, happy person. And now what's wild is I have become the really cool person in the room for being myself. So I don't think it's an ego thing. It's not like, oh, I'm so cool for being myself. It's more about, thank goodness someone like you is giving me the platform to make me feel safe, happy, and authentic. My hope is by seeing people like you and me being unfiltered, people feel like they can do that more themselves. Because it really does make life a lot easier, and frankly, it inspires me every day to keep going when those are the cases.
Yeah. Talking about being authentic, I've been in a couple situations or talking in a class or something about the like most important things to me, just like in general, day-to-day life. And my top three are always be yourself, being authentic, be positive in whatever you're doing, and then just be a hard worker.
Yeah.
Because
those will all three take you far, man.
Being authentic for me, who, like I've said earlier, having the entrepreneurial mindset that I do, if I'm in a business deal and say I'm signing with, I don't even know, some big brand like Gatorade, we'll just throw that out there.
Throw it out there.
They're like, okay, yeah, we like your image, we like this about you, all that, we can do this, brand deal, this, that, and the other. But then if I put on a fake mask for that deal and then take the mask off, they're like, this isn't who you are, blah, 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 deal's over.
Yes.
It doesn't work like that. And I think just being authentic, be who you are, it will get you a lot further.
There's so many great case studies on that. I'm glad you brought that up. That's very real, man.
And then second was the positivity. You always got to find the good and the bad, always be positive. You wake up every day for a reason. So what's your reason?
What's your reason? Beautiful. Great point.
And then number three is just work hard, because I learned this from both of my parents, and it's kind of showed in a little bit of like what they've done in their day-to-day lives currently of just starting something and getting it done. And I've kind of adapted that, and I honestly want to say it mostly came from my mom, because she was always like, okay, can we do this later? I'm in the middle of this, I got to get this done. And I'm just like, yeah, let's do it later. Or my dad starts something like he and I rebuilt our deck. So you start that. Although we don't work on it during the week, we worked on it every weekend to get it done when he's not busy. We worked on our garage. We redid our entire garage.
Good for you, man. That just sounds
and
terrifying to me. Good for you. That's amazing. I don't have any of that in my bones.
But everyone in my family, if we know we're going to start something, it's how are we going to get it done? What do we need to get it done? And then get it done.
Love it.
We don't really wait around. Granted, if I perchance wait to do an assignment till the date's due,
I've done it, man.
That's another story.
Yes. No, I'm going to tell you something right now. I have done that, okay? I'm not going to argue with any of that. It happens, man.
Yeah. Honestly, I think this podcast, this episode is coming to an end. Mm-hmm. Do you want to plug your social medias?
Sure. So if you'd like to follow my journey through social media, all you have to do is search Music by Skippy, all is one word, on any social media platform. And if you'd like to listen to my music, see performances on YouTube, you'll search the exact same thing. Music by Skippy, all spelled as one word.
That'll be in the description of this video as well. You can follow along with everything I do on Instagram at hoh.podcast. And honestly, we have some really good things coming up very, very soon. I was glad that we can have this sit down. It's a lot different from the online video platform that we do. We were actually able to sit down and have this episode, so I hope you guys enjoy this. There's many more to come, and my name's Riker, this is Skippy, and that was the House of Horizons.